All right, guys. Hello, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well today. This is the NBA Tournament Strategy Show where we'll do a quick look back at yesterday, see what went well, see what didn't go well. And then, of course, later today at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll have the NBA Pre-Lock Show where we'll work on the implementation of what we're actually doing on this slate. Guys, man, yesterday was an interesting slate. This was the 100K winning lineup. Uh, Yesterday was a okay, not good, not bad day for me. But it feels bad because I've already back tested yesterday and I ran 150 lines instead of 20 lines. And just with a few changes on guys that I was already relatively high on, could have surpassed this winning lineup with Kendrick Nunn in the line and some other pieces too. So that kind of hurt the pride a little bit, but it's nice to back test and realize that you were on the right path. Some of my leverage plays missed bad yesterday, but we had guys like Lonnie Walker on there. We were high on guys like Mikal Bridges and Dennis Schroeder. Those weren't surprises. Trae Young was a surprise. DeJounte Murray, we got the news that he was healthy, and that's what kind of lowered the priority on Trae Young yesterday. So that's why almost no one had him. But of course, if you're being contrarian, those are some of the times where you're like, boom, makes sense to do it. Tattoo Freak has said between all three slates, I had a profitable night. Nice, man. Thomas Dye, good to see you, man. Dave, love seeing. Oh, in general, Army people did well yesterday. I know we had a guy take down the mini on FanDuel. We had 14th place on DraftKings. I know my guy Diego did well there. I know there were plenty of people who didn't do well. It's not like everyone won, but we had some guys who really were able to hit those ceiling performances. Those of you who watched this show yesterday, I mentioned Pascal Siakam. I mentioned on the pre-lock show too. I don't like playing guys against Joel Embiid, but they're both Cameroonian. They have a little bit of respect for each other, and Pascal Siakam has had ceiling performances against Embiid. Playing only 20 lines, I couldn't take the shot, but in my 150 back test, I did increase exposure to just 10%, was able to hit the nuts lineup. We talked about Giannis Valanciunas as well. I did not force exposure to him. He was not a leverage play for me, but we did talk about him on this show and the pre-lock show as an interesting GPP play. One that I really wish I would have taken the shot on, but didn't with 20, but did with 150, and it worked pretty well. Mikal Bridges and Schroeder, again, we were on, and Nas Reed were on too. So overall, like, it wasn't a yes, Aaron B. That's what it was. Harden at low. Wait, Harden didn't do well yesterday, right? Yeah, he didn't do well, and so like that really hurt. Thomas, I always keep my settings, so I kept my leverage plays in there and everything, along with all the settings I had yesterday. The back testing and the DS remembers that, so it keeps that there. You can reset it if you want to, but I like to keep it. So it's like, how close was I? If I was very, very, very far, then I'll reset it and just kind of go from there. But typically, I like to see how close I was, and yesterday was one of those winnable days. Fortunately / unfortunately. But yeah, Harden was one of the leverage plays that hurt bad. Dave said, I locked Kaminsky in all of my 150. Don't ask why. I won't, Dave. I won't ask why, but that's so interesting. But yeah, guys, it was definitely an interesting slate. Some highs, some lows. I hate that we missed on some pieces there, but let's move on to today's slate. A nice little 5-gamer. Hopefully we can keep some good vibes going. So let's start off with the injury news per usual with the Utah Jazz. That's the first game on the slate. It's TBD. We don't have the injury news yet for Kelly Olynyk and Colin Sexton. They're both still, we'll figure out by game time. I really don't care too much at this point. If Olynyk is out, then of course, like, Kessler's more of an interesting option. If Sexton's out, then of course, like, Mike Conley and Jordan Clarkson are more viable. If everyone's healthy, then I'm less interested in this team, but this is an ideal matchup. So guys like Lauri Markkanen are guys that I would be more interested in if everyone's healthy. But if they're out, then Clarkson and Conley are kind of the ways that I would like to go. Gino said, I'm not here for a long time, but here for a good time. Hey, Gino, I just appreciate you checking in and watching for a little bit. Like, I respect you, and you do a lot of fantastic MMA content as well. So trying to figure this out quickly. Oh God. Oh God. For those of you that don't know, you can find Gino on Twitter, but as of right now, I only have his personal one. Gino, I definitely do want to shout out your Twitter though at some point because you've been crushing it in MMA. Yeah, Joe Val, man, that's really what it was, Thomas. It was Joe Val, and we were so close to increasing the exposure that it hurts. But trying to move, trying to move past it now. All right, next up, guys, we have the Detroit. Oh, so yeah, that's pretty much how I handled the Jazz today, barring any news. They are playing off of a back-to-back, so it wouldn't shock me if something crazy happened. Next up, we have the Detroit Pistons. You guys know when it comes to the Pistons, at this point, like they're relatively healthy. Kate Cunningham is still out. Isaiah Livers is still out. Bogdanovich has really been the guy that's dominated usage on this team as of late, with a 30.3% usage rate in his last 4 games. So that's very impressive. That's going to be a guy that I'm open to having exposure to. I'm not super excited about it, so I doubt he'll be a leverage player or things of that sort. But hopefully we get exposure naturally in our initial runs. Let's see. The rest of the Pistons, I mean, Killian Hayes is someone that, is very volatile. He's a young player. He's had ceiling performances, some very, very low floor performances as well. Again, like these Pistons are just really not going to stand out too much for me. But again, I'm not going to take them out of my player pool. This is a situation I'm going to let the domination station kind of control my fate on. Unless, like, as I'm doing research throughout the day, I start to see something that pops out for me. But as of right now, like, I know the domination station likes Jaden Ivey in this spot. Duran and Burks are starting to pop a little bit, but it's still early. We're still looking for more value on this slate. We're still waiting on a lot of injury news, so I'm not super excited about that spot in particular. All right, guys. Next up, we have the Chicago Bulls at the Miami Heat. The Bulls, again, are relatively healthy. Javonte Green is questionable. Lonzo Ball is still out. I know a lot of these guys have been performing well here lately. Vucevic in particular is a guy that I get FOMO with. Definitely, if he's going to be one of the lower owned guys on this team, I kind of want to force some exposure there. But it's a spot I want to think about more. Like the Heat are not a team that I like to pick on, and especially if the Bulls are going to be pretty popular tonight, I don't know if that's going to be a shot I want to take. DeMar DeRozan has been in solid form. I know he had a decent game against the Timberwolves. He did pretty well against the Miami Heat earlier this season. I think this was the spot where we were talking on the pre-lock show and we were like, oh, this is interesting. It's like Zach LaVine's going to be chalky and Vucevic is going to be chalky, but no one's playing DeMar DeRozan. And that's when we kind of made DeMar DeRozan a pre-lock leverage play, but that could be completely made up in my head. Well, that feels right. But yeah, there's not really any great matchups here because they're facing the Miami Heat, but I think you can look at the usual guys like DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic, and LaVine are all viable here, especially if this game can stay close. They can kind of surpass their projection in this kind of spot. But again, not really guys I'm super excited to play yet, so we haven't really gotten to those plays yet. Next up, we have the Miami Heat, and you guys know this team always has a long injury list, even if it's just guys who are probable. So Jimmy Butler is probable. Kyle Lowry is questionable. Caleb Martin is questionable. Gabe Vincent is out. Dwayne Dedmon's probable. Haslam's questionable. So at least no surprise starts, which is nice. And then Omer Yurtseven is still out. So per usual, the Miami Heat is going to matter a lot who's in and who's out. Since it seems like Jimmy Butler's going to play today, since he's probable, I'm not really overly concerned about like how much exposure I'll have to Butler or Hero. They're always more interesting to me if someone's out, but they're definitely still viable here. Like Jimmy Butler, I'll at least have field weight exposure on him. That's just a common sense thing that I'm going to do. Like if he's going to be 5% owned, I'll at least have 5% of a guy that's had a ceiling performance against this team already. Tyler Hero is a little bit too expensive for me if Jimmy Butler's playing. So if Kyle Lowry's out and if Caleb Martin's out, then Tyler Hero would become more viable for me, but I can't do this price tag for him if this team is healthy. Bam's a solid play. I don't hate it, but not really a spot that I'm feeling like he's going to be a core play for me for. Bobby said, "Hey Josiah, good to see you. What are your thoughts on DeRozan today?" Dang it, just talked about him. Yeah, I mean, he's someone that he's had strong performances against the Miami Heat, so he's someone that I don't want to forget about in particular. But he's not going to be, as of right now, he's not going to be a leverage player. Someone that I'm super excited to get exposure to. This game in general are just two teams that I don't like to pick on, and typically I'm not going to have a leverage play from it unless I feel like someone's like criminally underowned, and I'm not really getting those vibes from this game yet. Hopefully that changes, but we'll see. Darren said, "Do you change your ownership cap based on slate size at all?" No. And if by ownership cap you mean, yeah, projected ownership cap, no, I don't. I never changed this for NBA. For the NFL and other sports, primarily the NFL, I'll change like projected ownership and play around with like salary range, point range and salary cap and things of that sort. But for NBA, I kind of keep things pretty simple. Oh, it's probably this channel. So like if you guys click on Gino's chat, you guys can see some of his MMA content, and people have been crushing MMA as of late. So highly recommend. So yeah, that's the Miami Heat for us. Nothing too special. The Golden State Warriors. Okay, now things are starting to get a little bit more interesting again. Okay, so the Golden State Warriors, they have Klay Thompson probable, so he'll probably play. Dante DiVincenzo is doubtful. Andrew Wiggins is out. Jonathan Kuminga is probable. Andrew Iguodala is out. Steph Curry is out. All of that. So Poole has been performing pretty well as of late. He's a 34.9% usage rate this season so far over the last 2 games. For reference, the only other guy on this slate who has a similar usage rate is Ja Morant on this slate. So 8,100 for a guy that has that kind of usage rate is pretty much a steal. So Jordan Poole should be the chalk tonight. He will be the chalk tonight. Hopefully his ownership stays below 30% because that's a potential leverage area for me, but I don't know. He'll probably just be a core play and just kind of leave it at that. Klay Thompson as well. This Knicks team they have not been the best defensive team this season. So a lot of these Golden State Warriors guys are going to be viable on this slate, even though we're not getting an extreme discount on them. So due to their price, it's going to be hard for them to be core plays. But I'll definitely have at least be around field weight on like Poole, Thompson, and Green. The rest of these pieces are less interesting to me, but you can definitely take your shots on Looney, Kuminga as well. And possibly a Ty Jerome or Moses Moody. With DiVincenzo out, they're going to need to get more of their guards involved. I know they really want Moses Moody to kind of get back on track, and I'm not sure the relationship with Ty Jerome. So I'll need to dig a little bit deeper there, but I think we can take a shot on one of those two guys. Aaron said, in the VIP chalkboard, is ownership based on 150 max and single entry? Chalkboard is always the ownership projections always based on kind of like the biggest tournaments, like the 100K tournament on DraftKings or the biggest tournament with the largest number of people. So yeah, typically it's like the 150 max tournaments is not single entry. Like single entry ownership is always going to be elevated. So like whoever the chalky play is, almost everyone's going to have that. So like for instance, Jordan Poole's like 28% owned in like a large field GPP, but in a single entry, he'll probably be closer to like 50, 60, 70%. So kind of like double field weight almost is probably a good way to think about it. All right. So yeah, I kind of like that Ty Jerome, Moses Moody shots. Definitely want to dig deeper into those because I think that could be a nice way of getting different on the slate. Next up, we have the New York Knicks. Let's see, any injury news for them? No, they're pretty healthy. Obi Toppin is out, so that matters a little bit. But he's been out for a while. Julius Randle, man, has been good. He's been good so far this season. And when he's been a leverage play, he's been awesome. When we haven't played him, he's been awesome. When we have played him, he's been awesome. So, I mean, against this bad front court of Golden State's, like I think we can definitely utilize Randle here. I think Mitchell Robinson is very viable. I think Brunson's viable here. The Golden State Warriors are not a great defensive team. They're better at home. They have been a better defensive team at home, which they are today. No, that's a lie. They're not at home. Lying. So when they're on the road, they're a worse defensive team. So I feel even better about playing the Knicks here. So yeah, Randle, Brunson, Robinson are the guys I feel the most comfortable with. you can take some shots on RJ Barrett. He's been very volatile this season, but in all honesty, I feel like he always is. I do feel more comfortable playing Barrett in worse matchups. I don't think this is a spot where Barrett's going to be a leverage play for me, but I'll probably be close to field weight on him. If Mitchell Robinson stays close to 15%, I could definitely see him being a leverage play today. On these small slates, like finding leverage plays can be tougher because on a large slate, if someone's 15% owned, they can still be a leverage play at 30% and they won't be a core play. On a small slate, if someone's like 20 to 30% owned and I make them a leverage play, it almost automatically makes them a core play. So that doesn't really matter to you guys, but those are things that I think about a little bit. And maybe if you're making and choosing your own leverage plays, it's a good thing to think about too. So next up, we have the Washington Wizards. They're pretty healthy. Roy's out still. Hachimura. Delon Wright is still out. So not a ton of injuries here, which means that they're not going to be super interesting. Again, they're also facing off against the Suns. A pretty solid defensive team if they're actually playing today. I know they had almost everyone out last night. So hopefully they're actually playing tonight. I think Bradley Beal's always viable. He's always under-owned. The matchup, again, I don't love, but he's definitely still interesting here. Kristaps Porzingis is viable here as well, just due to their ceilings and low ownership. But that's kind of like the main reason why I'm interested in them. But the matchup themselves, they're bad. They're bad. Cedric said KP has been smashing as of late. He has. And it's weird because I've had exposure to him on the vast majority of slates, but he hasn't been a leverage play for me in a while, unless like Bradley Beal has been out or something like that. So we've had some of those nights. But it's weird. Like KP used to be one of my guys I had all the time last year, and this year, I guess I don't know. Just haven't been there as much. Maybe today. Today could be the day. All right, so for the Phoenix Suns, we have a lot of TBDs. Devin Booker is TBD. Cam Payne is TBD. Josh Okogie is TBD. Jock Landale TBD. Dwayne Washington TBD. And Cam Johnson's still out. So that means that we really don't know how to treat the Suns team yet. It's not even really worth going through all of the situations. There's a solid chance that I think Devin Booker just missed yesterday because they're on a back-to-back. So if I had to guess, I think Devin Booker and the vast majority of these guys play, which means that I'm not extremely excited about attacking this team. The Wizards have allowed the most points in the paint per game over their last 5 games. And so I think that makes things a little bit more interesting for DeAndre Ayton. So I'm not certain, like, this isn't a spot that I want to attack a ton, but it's interesting, and that's something I want to dig a little bit deeper into as I research. So kind of highlighting Ayton for that reason. If Booker and Paul are both playing, I'm a lot less interested in them. From a contrarian standpoint, they should be low owned today, so you can definitely take some shots, but I can't really find another reason outside of that. Of course, like if we get some more injuries, then that might increase my interest on these guys a little bit. But as of right now, it's really just Ayton that's kind of standing out for me. Bridges is always viable too. He sees all the minutes he can handle, but again, with this team healthy, his usage rate decreases. Even on the back-to-back, they just let him run. I always wonder, like, will he regret playing so many minutes in the future? I don't know, because like the wear and tear on him has to be insane. But all right, moving on. Last game on the slate, right? Yeah, last game. We have Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies against the Denver Nuggets. So the Grizzlies are pretty healthy. Bane's still out. Danny Green's still out. The Denver Nuggets, we have Nikola Jokic, probable. Jamal Murray's questionable. MPJ is doubtful. KCP is questionable. And Jeff Green is questionable. So the big news here is Jamal Murray. If Jamal Murray is out, then we are loading up on Aaron Gordon, KCP. Let me actually go to the Nuggets. KCP, Bruce Brown, Nikola Jokic. Like, we're playing all of these guys. The scary thing is that this game is the last game on the slate. Hopefully we get this Jamal Murray news. The Nuggets are typically pretty good about getting this stuff out early, so I'm cautiously optimistic that we won't be stuck tonight not knowing what to do. Really hope he's out though, because that would really make this slate more interesting. And you guys know I love having exposure to the last game on the slate, and that would make it pretty easy. On the other side of things, focusing on the Memphis Grizzlies, I mean, you guys know I've been playing guards against the Nuggets all year. The Denver Nuggets are really bad against guards, so I think my leverage play is pretty easy. It's going to be John Morant today. I might include Jaren Jackson Jr. JJJ and Steven Adams scare me a little bit. Uh, Steven Adams has been in great form the last few games, but what concerns me is that Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson have to face off against Nikola Jokic, which increases the likelihood of foul trouble. Jaren Jackson Jr. is known for his foul trouble, so I have some concern there. Knowing me, though, high likelihood of both of them potentially still being leverage plays, but the risk is there. Outside of that, I'm not super interested in them, but I can't wait for this game. I hope we get the news early enough to keep things interesting, and we can go from there. Let's see. They have hand problems. They're on a back-to-back. Yeah, the Suns in particular, I believe that's who you're talking about, Dwayne. Sorry, I missed that on time. But yeah, the Suns are on a back-to-back. They are dealing with some injuries. Hopefully, I think we'll get the news. It wouldn't shock me if everyone's relatively healthy, but if we get like a Devin Booker being out, then this slate becomes much, much more exciting. But guys, that's pretty much the slate in a nutshell. I appreciate you guys for watching, for keeping the conversation going. This will be so hard to do if I was just talking to myself the entire time. But I look forward to hopefully seeing a lot of you guys on the pre-lock show, which again is when we'll start implementing our leverage plays, who we're increasing exposure to, and kind of go from there. So hope you guys have a good rest of your day and see you guys soon. Peace out.